Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I'm here with my October reading wrap-up where I'm going to be talking about all the books that I finished in October. So October wasn't a stellar of reading month for me as September. In September, I think I finished 8 books. This month, I only finished 4. But I do have a goal of reading 4 books a month, so I did meet my goal, so it wasn't a complete fail. So I'm going to get into the books that I read. So the first one is by Marian Keyes. This is The Mystery of Mercy Close. So Marian Keyes, if you don't know, she's an Irish author, and she's been writing books like in the 90s and 2000s. And this is actually one of the Walsh sister companion series books. So she's written 4 other books about these Walsh sisters. There's 5 sisters, and this book is about the 5th, the youngest sister, Helen Walsh. So the first book, I think it was Watermelon. She wrote it about the oldest sister, and that was in the 90s. So finally now there's books about all 5 sisters. And they're definitely standalone novels. Like, you didn't need to read the other books to understand this one, but you do kind of get updates from the characters in the other books, through this book. So that was very interesting. But this specific book is a mystery. So Helen Walsh is a private investigator, but recently she's fallen on hard times. She has not been able to pay her mortgage, so she has to move back with her parents. And she's like in her early 30s. So business isn't doing well for her. She has to move back home, and she's kind of gets into depression. But one of her ex-boyfriends hires her for a job to locate and find a missing member of an Irish 90s pop group. So the book is set over the course of about a week, so it's very fast-paced, and it really grabs your attention because you really want to know what's happened to this member of this boy band. Is Helen going to be able to find him? But it also deals with Helen's depression. So she has come across a lot of bad times recently, and she also has a propensity for depression. So she's dealing with that at the same time trying to solve this mystery. So it's very interesting. This is one that I read pretty quickly just because I really wanted to know what was going to happen, but I did really enjoy this. And then since I was in an Irish author sort of mood, the next book that I bought or read was also by an Irish author. So this is Apart from the Crowd by Anna McPartlin. So this book has 2 main characters, Mary and then Sam. So Mary lives in a small Irish town that she's lived in her whole life, and everyone in this town kind of knows her as Mary, Queen of Sorrows. She just had a lot of misfortune happen in her life. Her mother died when she was born. Her boyfriend, high school, first love boyfriend, died in a car accident, and then her son that she had with this boyfriend actually died when he was 4 or 5 years old. So she's had a lot of bad times come to her, and she just kind of shuts her off from life, shuts her off from love, and she's just kind of this bitter person. So then Sam comes along, and Sam's an American, and he's just been in rehab for heroin addiction, and he finishes rehab, and his counselor there tells him that if your life has been causing you to be addicted to heroin, has been the problem, your life and your friends and your job, you really need to start over. You can't go back to the same life and expect that you're going to have different results. So he decides to go to Ireland. His grandmother was from Ireland and then immigrated to the United States. So he decides to go to Ireland and kind of see the town where she was from. So Mary and Sam end up as neighbors. First, they really dislike each other, but this is kind of a romantic book, so you can kind of see where this one's going to go. This actually took me 3 weeks to read. It was kind of slow moving. It wasn't I really need to pick it up and see what's going to happen. I could read little bits at a time. I did enjoy this, and especially towards the second half of the book, I enjoyed it more. But this did take a little bit for me to get into, and definitely was a slower sort of read. So the next book I read was actually an audiobook, so I listened to it versus reading it, and it's Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. So this book, I don't know why I was in this depressing sort of book mood, I guess, this month. I don't know. But this book has two main characters. There's Louisa Clark or Lou Clark, and then there's Will Traynor. So Louisa's just lost her job. She's worked for like 6 years at a cafe. She's in her I think she's like 26 or 27 in the book. So she's worked for quite a few years at this cafe, and then the cafe's closing, so she loses her job, and then she ends up getting a job as a care assistant to a man who's paralyzed, and that's Will. So the book is kind of about Will. So he is paralyzed. He was hit by a motorbike, and now he's completely paralyzed. He's totally dependent on other people, and he was very active and had a very active lifestyle before, and his quality of life is just never going to be the same. So the book is kind of depressing. So he's wanting to go to a place in Switzerland where they do assisted suicide. So his parents have hired Lou to try to convince him to want to live. They hoping someone with a cheery personality will make him decide that it's worth living life. But Louisa is not aware of this, so he gives his parents 6 months. I'll give you 6 months until you have to take me to this clinic, or I want to go to this clinic that will help with assisted suicide. So Louisa has her job for 6 months, and she's not aware of this until later on in the story. But it really talks about assisted suicide, and makes you think about what you do in that situation, and makes you see different sides of it. It was really interesting. It was a depressing book, but it was interesting, and I did really like that one. And then the fourth book that I read this month was one of the Pretty Little Liars books. This is Deadly. This is the 14th Pretty Little Liars book. This is by Sara Shepard. So I really want to finish out the series. You can see all my Pretty Little Liars books behind me. So there's going to be 16 books in the series. The last book's coming out in December, so I'm trying to get through the rest of the books. Honestly, I mean, these are super fun. These are super fast reads. They're young adult books. I think the first 8 books in the series is what you'd really need to read to know what's happened, especially if you watch the show and you're kind of getting fed up with the show and you just want to know what happened. I would suggest reading the first 8 books in the series. I think when Sara Shepard originally wrote the series, it was meant to just be the 8 books, but then the series was so popular and TV show was so popular, so she's written another 8 books. Really, you could have stopped with the first 8 books, but now I just want to finish up the series. I mean, these are fun to read, but we'll see what the conclusion of this story ends up to be. So those are the 4 books that I finished this month. I'd love to know what you have been reading and what you finished this month. And thanks for watching. Bye.